Hi guys, Steve Davis here, Stillwater Woodcraft. We're going to continue on today in our trapping series with a deadfall trap. Okay, now I like to keep my trapping simple because simple is generally quicker, and trapping being a numbers game, I can get more traps out with the same amount of time as some of the more involved traps. So what we're going to talk about today is a Piaute deadfall. Okay, it's pretty simple to set up. It does utilize a piece of cordage, but that piece of cordage can also be just some like a strip of nettles fiber, or a spruce root or something like that. It doesn't have to be cordage per se, so it's not real material dependent. A deadfall just involves blunt force. We don't have to have something that can hold tension like as in a snare. So to me, this is the way to go in a lot of situations, and with some simple setups it's pretty easy. So when we're selecting our deadfall, the working part of this trap, it's going to come down and basically mash whatever it is that we're trapping. So there's some important things to consider in selecting a piece for a deadfall. Now obviously I have a piece of square timber here. We're back at my cabin. This is a piece that was left over from building the cabin, so I'm going to use it right now. Now not very often are you going to find a piece that's perfect. Some big flat rocks, stuff like that, are going to be really close. But the things you need to look for is, number one, weight. It's got to have weight to work. So we want something that's at least 8-10 times heavier than our target animal. So if we're after, say, a squirrel, we're going to want 20-25 pounds. We want to make sure it's dead. Okay, and then the side that's going to come down against the ground, we're going to want to make sure that this doesn't have like big hollows in it or big points, that when it comes down, that animal has a chance to be in a spot where the full weight won't come down on it, whether it be from a point holding it up or a hollow giving it a spot underneath there. So keep that in mind, and also where you're going to set it needs to be relatively flat. The other thing to consider is how steady it sits. Something that's going to rock around real easy is going to be hard to get set up. That can be overcame by taking and just placing a couple stakes behind your deadfall to give it something to rest back against so it doesn't rock side to side, or you can put some stakes beside it if you need to. But we selected a deadfall here, and we'll get around to making this Piaute trap. Okay, the pieces we're going to need to build this trap will be, one, a stick to support this. I prefer a stick with a fork in the end of it. That makes it a little bit easier to get this top joint together. A short piece to make the toggle out of. A piece to cut our trigger stick out. And then something for the top support, okay? Then a piece of some kind of cordage, spruce root, something to that effect. So our support piece here, this is going to hold this trap up. So I want to measure this. So when I have my angle here of my deadfall, and this is important too, you don't want this angle too low, so when it falls it doesn't have momentum to come down and hit hard, but then you don't want it up too high so it has to break over that center point and it's slow. You find about 30 degrees or so will be the optimum between speed and power. Notice it falls pretty quick and hits, whereas we have it low, it doesn't hit very hard. But if we got it up at too much of an angle, it's real slow. So about 30 degrees is what I've found works real well. So we have our piece cut. so that V is at the right height to hold that. Okay, now notice I have this leaning out a little bit. I don't want my support stick to get under my trap and possibly impede it. So for our top support, doesn't have to be anything special. And what that's going to do is sit in that fork. And the end of that here is going to hold our deadfall up. Now you notice what we've done is just created a lever. Okay, we got our fulcrum and our lever here. So to keep this from just letting go, what we're going to do is catch it with a toggle. So we're going to take our piece of cordage here, come out on the end of our top support stick and just tie that on in some fashion. Now when I cut these top support sticks, I generally cut them just the same length as my upright, and that seems to work out pretty well. So now I have my cordage tied on to my upright. What I'm going to do is kind of hold this up together by hand, see how that wants to sit. So I can bring my string down around, and it's going to come around this upright to hold our toggle in there. So I want to catch it with my finger about the spot I think I need it. And at that spot, I'm just going to throw a quick hitch in there. If I didn't lose my toggle stick here somewhere. There we go. When you do stuff on video, you'll find that stuff gets misplaced all the time. So I'm just going to throw that hitch in there, and I'm not going to secure it off real tight yet because I may have to adjust this. So what we've got is our upright, our support piece, and now we have our toggle that will come down and just wrap around that upright. So it's got weight bearing on it. This toggle comes around. Oh, I have to adjust it already, I can see. Shorten that up a little bit. Alright, back on track. So now we got this toggle adjusted, maybe. Everything's going to slide around on me here. There. Now we got this toggle adjusted. So it is holding the end of our lever out here with this string wrapped around. So what we need to do is trap this toggle here, and what we're going to use is just our bait stick. And we're going to find a spot that catches in here against our deadfall, so we can kind of wedge it in there. About right there maybe. I'm just going to mark that distance with my thumb. I'll take and cut that off. Alright, so now we're ready to set it. Upright, or top stick there, come around with our toggle, so we got it caught. Get our trigger stick wedged back in there. And there we go. Now remember, with these triggers, if they're hard to set, you probably got it right. If they're real easy to get set and they stay there real easy, they're going to be hard to set off. So what we have now, to recap here, we have our upright with the fork, and that's got our top stick here, our load bearing stick, holding the deadfall up. Then our string back here is holding our lever, okay, and it comes down to our toggle, and it's around the front of the upright and held with our bait stick. So now you'll notice here I have this upright outside of the deadfall. That way when this deadfall comes down, it doesn't have a chance to get stuck against that upright. Now another thing to do in soft ground is to put something like a piece of bark or a flat stone underneath your upright to keep that from sinking into the ground over time with the weight of the deadfall bearing on it. So we got our stick baited here, okay, however we're going to bait it, and our deadfall set up, and what will happen is they will come and screw with that stick, and that'll kick out, releasing that bait stick, which releases the toggle, which lets the lever flip, and our deadfall comes down. I'll set that back up and we'll get a close look here. Okay, we'll get back down here a little closer. So I have my upright, my lever piece with my toggle tied onto the string. I'm just going to stick that in the fork there. Lower the weight of my deadfall on it. Now here's the toggle, and it's just coming around that upright. My bait stick here that we measured for length. Find a spot where it'll catch again. And it's just holding the end of this toggle, keeping it from twisting out of there. So this is a pretty simple setup. Now our bait stick, to bait this trap, okay, there's a couple things we can do. If we're after a predatory type animal, you know, we can just skewer like a meat bait on there, or you know, something, you know, herbivores, we can skewer a piece of fruit or something like that on there. Now the easiest way to do this, using something like a hickory nut, is to split this bait stick and put the hickory nut inside the stick. And we'll get to that here in a second. I'll show you how I do that. But again, here, you know, as you can see, we'll release the bait stick. The whole thing just flips out of there, pretty easy to do. Alright, let's look at baiting one of these bait sticks. I had a hickory nut here. Okay, I'm just gonna get some hickory nut. Pretty easy. I'm gonna take my bait stick here and just take my knife, being careful. Well, this one's not wanting to cooperate. Again, being careful, and take and split that stick. You don't want to get close to the end so it splits all the way out. So we got it split one direction there. I want to take and come to the other side and do the same thing. So now we have it split in 4 pieces. Okay, you can see there's 4 splits in there. I'm just going to take bits of my hickory nut. I'm going to hold that open. Then I put this pieces of hickory nut in there. Find the nut pieces. As you can see, they'll be trapped inside that stick. We can load that split up. And what that'll do is that'll be hard to get out of there, and they'll have to fight, you know, that bait stick. They'll have to screw with it a little bit, which will release our trap. So you can see how that split 4 ways there. Easy way to bait the stick. Alright guys, there's the Piaute Deadfall. Really simple deadfall setup. You know, everything can be obtained from the woods. Most pieces can just be broke out. So get out and, you know, practice a couple of these, set them up in your backyard. Don't catch your neighbor's cat. You know, again, watch your game laws and stuff. You don't want to be in trouble, and if you do, it ain't my fault. So this has been Steve Davis, Stillwater Woodcraft. Thank you for your views. Thank you for your support. Go out and make some traps.